أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So last week we started talking about Quran as a book of invitation, and the verses we studied were about first, the verse that apparently talks to the Messenger والسلام, Prophet والسلام, saying conveying the message is part of his duty. And then we talked about how that can be a right for ourselves, as I take the word messenger for myself. But apart from this, also other verses, which I only put two of them in here, but many more, which talks about enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil as part of a believer's duty. And last week, when we were talking about this, we said that this is like embedded into humans' senses, pretty much like we gave the example of a food truck. Like people are suffering from this horrible food truck out there. And then if you find a new nice food truck, you would like to share it with your friends. Yes.
A question about food. So in terms of like what we experience and how we sort of convey a message to others, two people could also have very different experiences, like say with the example of the food truck. Mm-hmm. In that example, we had it, and I forget whether it was amazing or not, but for another person, if we thought it was like an amazing food truck, another person could have had it and gotten sick. Mm-hmm. And so they would convey a different message that we convey, or what I would convey, mm-hmm, if I liked it. Yep. And so, but both of those are truths, like, mm-hmm, to that perspective of that, perspective to that.
Yes, yes. That's a very good point. Like in this regard, do I expect the truth, like if I apply the message to my reality? So yes, sometimes a certain type of food, like the person is being lactose intolerant or something, and then really this awesome food, which worked so well for you, is not going to work well for that other person. So first of all, you will share what you liked because you are willing the good of that other person. But if it doesn't fit that other person, you cannot force that person, can you? You would say that this is what worked for me, and I like your good. I would like you to benefit from it, and I benefited from it. This is why I'm sharing it with you. If it doesn't work for you, I can't do anything for you. And it will come, actually. You can only convey the message, but you cannot force anyone as it will come. You cannot make anybody accept the message. But a second hidden question in there is, could it be that the message is going to work for some and it's going to be damaging for others? Like, let's say, La ilaha illallah is detrimental for certain people. Could it be? So in this regard, this now becomes more of an existential question in the sense that the purpose of this existence, is it being taught? Is it being remedying the fundamental existential human problem, which is I am weak, I am needy. And what I find here is good for. If you are weak and needy, then it should work for you. If you are not weak, if you're not needy, yeah, definitely this message is not for you. So I guess this is where I would like to share the message with somebody else. If I see that the person is needy, and existentially everybody is needy, but it might happen, and this is where now it's going to take us to the next parts of this surah, these verses. When I am conveying the message to someone, what if the person is not feeling needy? How would I convey the message? Because then it sounds like, in our example, this person is lactose intolerant. Like there's something wrong with the person. So although they are needy, they don't feel needy. So how can I then approach such a person? Could be a secondary question. Otherwise, correct me if I'm wrong, but existentially, everything, not only everybody, everything is so needy, and the message of Quran is the only remedy for that. So I cannot imagine or think of anyone who cannot benefit from the message of Quran if presented properly and if they choose to accept. Because the second part is again on the shoulders of the other person. Yes.
If the person is like feeling whether it benefits them or not is complicated. Before thinking about how do I approach such a person, when the message is asked to be conveyed, do I have to convey it to such a person if I feel like they are always they're saying they're not in need?
So for this one, and for 9 people, the question was, what if the other person does not feel needy? So shall I really convey the message to that person? So I think this has 2 sides. One is, what if this person was, let's say, my sibling, my daughter, my son? So out of my mercy, really, I would like to save this person from fire. Like if somebody is inside a burning house, like an old person, let's imagine an old person, and the house is burning, and then the person says, I'm not leaving the house. This is my house. You cannot take me out. But the person is burning. So at such a point, how would you feel inside? Like, would you say, I mean, it's up to you? Well, or like really insides of yours, what's it? There's someone? Okay, unless they knock the door, we are good.
Yeah.
So in this case, even if I'm not going to help the person, inside me is this fire will also burn me, because leaving the person in the fire, like I cannot simply say, well, whatever, you didn't want to accept the message. I cannot simply step back. So in your question, like, do you feel the sense of, like, he didn't feel the need for this message, so I don't feel obliged to convey the message. Would you say so? Or would you say the person doesn't know what he or she is going through, so I should find a way to convey the message to these people? In which position would you find yourself in? Because this reminds me of, like, as an example, when Prophet went to Ta'if for conveying the message, and those people stoned him. But then in the narrations, as we know, angel comes and says, your creator is saying that, would you like me to close this mountain on top of them? But Prophet is saying that they don't know what they are stoning. Like, apparently they don't want to hear the message, they are stoning him. But Prophet is saying that they are not aware of what they are rejecting. So he is making a prayer for them, so that maybe, if not them, but some offsprings that will come later is going to accept the message. So this really is the position that my role, like, how shall I position myself in this setup? This is our point in here, right? So shall I simply say, if you are stoning, then go to hell, I don't care about you? Or I should say, you don't know what you're up to, and I will try other ways to make you realize your neediness. Does this make sense? It looks like there's some fog is left in there. Okay.
Even if they don't ask, it's like they're not aware of it, or might not.
Very good question, practical question. So in this regard, also, I mean, in terms of physical needs, how seriously we are thinking about the matter, right? So this is how it is happening with our kids as well. Like they don't want to eat, they're sick, they don't want to get medicine, but we are really trying our best to get them benefits. Same with the homeless person. You see, even if they don't ask, you would like to help them, reach out to them. And it's being hard to, let's say, not look there. Let's then use this occasion, because this is, I guess, common human sense out there. And we know how it feels. Now apply this to conveying the message. Somebody is burning deep inside. And what's affected by rejecting the message is not simply 5, 10, 20 years of life, but it's an eternal life that this person is losing. What would I do in this sense? Would I wait for the person to ask? Or would I try to find a way that the message is going to be conveyable to that person? Like try different doors of the same person.
I'm thinking of like another side to the question, which is and I'm sure that this whole discussion is about it, but to what extent do we take that in our hands? Because I feel like what you're saying makes sense in for the most part, but a lot of times what happens practically is that some people who don't realize they're needy might be bothered or annoyed at attempts of being taught the truth, right? The word of God. Which is, I think I mentioned this in a different discussion at Drexel, that I think that a lot of the hatred towards religion and especially Christianity is done by people like bugging you and annoying you in the streets, talking about someone trying to save you who I don't know this guy. And I associate all these bad habits and traits of people in this religion, and I don't want to be associated with it. So it's actually doing quite opposite. Like these people are trying to save others, right? Invite them to the religion, but it does the opposite. And I feel like the same kind of effect can happen, with Islam. And I think that, yes, we can try very hard to find the ways, like even to the point of like maybe tricking them or not tricking them, but asking the right questions so that they start thinking and realizing their neediness. But if we're not able to, or if I'm not sure that I'll be able to, should I attempt it? Because the attempt can like end up kind of like ruining their chances,
Yes.
I guess I was thinking of like why we would put ourselves, like why would I put that burden on myself if I already know, like, because I was thinking, the reason why I was thinking about this, I was thinking about family versus like people I don't know. Because I think like I'm the perfect example of like, maybe I didn't know it was good for me at the age of whatever. So my dad's like, no, you're definitely going to Sunday school. No, I'm definitely teaching Quran. Like there are certain behaviors that I was like, I want to do what everybody else is doing. And so at that age, he's like, no, I think this is a better path for you. So, and many parents do this, but then I would say that's a form of conveying message, and many parents have done it, but maybe few actually end up maybe like actually following that religion and making it their own and actually like believing in that thing themselves. But I think that point is just a trial, like it's a supplication at best. And similar concept, I'm like, to strangers though, to what degree do I have like responsibility to convey the message if ultimately I'm told like, you can try, but he leads like people the right path who we wish, and those who like, so there's this sense of like, you don't really have that much power to begin with. So then I'm like, well, like if I don't know you, why will I put that burden on myself? Because even if I try, I sound horrible, but I'm like, why should I? But I think I struggle with that, like where I rarely ever like will approach, unless like it's truly my immediate family, then I rarely will
they're just there, and I'm like, well, I don't know you, but here's how I live my life. It's not that I live differently, I just don't mean I say, come, my way is better.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if that's like horrible, but it makes me question what's the responsibility part.
Oh, this is a very genuine perspective, a very honest perspective. Thank you for that. So,
I don't know if it's good looking, I'm like,
it doesn't look good,
no, it doesn't.
but it's genuine. Yes.
For last week was that the responsibility to convey the message is given to you by the one who owns the message, right? So, and you're not in charge of the outcome, and you have to detach yourself from the outcome. So I think like the last question that we left off something like was okay, so if you don't have any power over guiding the people, then should you still, convey? And I think with the example of Prophet Yunus, how he's just, left out of anger and because the people were not listening to him, and then, the real story, but like, I think that the fact of like the responsibility of conveying the message is an act of worship in itself. And just, I think it's just like an act of obedience and a test of patience, because if you continue to do, like, for example, the Prophet Muhammad said, I'm 950 years just like conveying the message, not because he was ordered to do so, so he did it, and he did it in terms like because that was his role. It has nothing to do with who followed at the end, because at the end that's Allah who decides that. So I feel like it really is I guess maybe I don't want to speak for like, as if I know the purpose of it, but I do feel like one thing you can gain is just to realize that really it's not like it's a very humbling thing to know that it's really not your speech or the way you do or the way how you're persuasive or the right way to reach a person. It's really just you're doing it because the one who owns the message is telling you to do it, and the outcome is not yours. So you're a slave and you do as you're told. I feel like that's just it's hard to grapple with, but I think that's the benefit for those who convey the message.
Yeah. So it's part of the training.
It is.
It's part of humans reading. Sister Zareen?
I guess I was going to maybe touch on that, like the prophetic aspects to like from what we were studying with like the supplications of the other prophets previously, where I think in the verse we're studying here too, where we can only convey as we've been taught. So maybe before thinking about how I'm conveying to others, maybe I also like thinking about myself, I should first convey what has been first. I should first maybe reflect more on what is being revealed to me, and am I taking the lessons properly? Because if I'm not paying attention what's being revealed to me, my situations, then there's no point conveying something that I'm not learning properly to other people. So I guess for me, we were talking also about trying to first establish an example within ourselves in our daily lives, such that that can be something that is followed, and it's not something I'm like maybe trying to like control, like how other people might, how I'm like, I guess trying to convey to other people, I suppose. And I think like it's amazing that there are all these lessons from the prophets. So we've been talking about how they are representations of different attitudes and different situations we can find ourselves, like each detail has relevance to us. And so I think like really studying those examples, like Prophet Yunus said, what happens if we try to avoid altogether just conveying a message, like these consequences and like the attitude of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam with his mercy and forbearance. And then at one point we were talking about Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and his how at the end he did make the dua where it seemed like he was kind of finished with like trying to convey to people and prayed for the outcome of the flood. So I guess there are all these different like attitudes that I can find myself in and trying to sort of learn more about my situation and which attitude to apply might be the lesson I'm getting.
Yeah, so it looks like there are, as you mentioned, with all these different prophets' lives, also repeating for the online people. So there are different boundaries. So where do I fall in with certain people, certain circumstances? The behavior is going to change, and all the prophetic examples are for that purpose. But I guess at the most basic level, feeling the need, as we have the hunger for food, and even fasting is there. One of the purposes of fasting is there, so that we can realize and appreciate food as a sustenance, and how the needy is deprived of this. And on top of that, I am given so that I can share it with the other person as an appreciation of the fact that I am given, because this is something that I take for granted most of the time. But also, as Sister Aisha was mentioning, convey that which has been revealed unto you, because I might feel like my guidance is like, take it for granted. It's always there. It is not being given to me. But realizing that it is being given to me is an important part. This is what we practice with zakat as charity, like monetary, financial charity. But considering conveying the message as zakat of the guidance that you found, then becomes as quote unquote natural as giving charity of food or even smiling to others and whatnot. Do you have a comment before we go there? No? Okay.
Just had a question.
Okay.
About like pre-rest, I guess like there are like to what degree should you have knowledge before you share? Because I'm like, I'm not good enough to be sharing this information. But then also like the reason why I had this question initially, but then you said, well, the message is also like get the message too. It's not like, but then I'm like, how do I know? Like I got the message. I think this makes sense and I should convey it versus. And is that dependent on the desire to share? But then if you don't have the desire to share, then what's the other issue that I should be?
Okay. Very, very good question. You said one, but you asked multiple. Yes.
I think when we're thinking about sharing the message, it seems like we're kind of viewing it one-dimensionally as, okay, we go out into the streets and say, oh, there's no God except God, you have to worship him. But in reality, like, I'm trying to understand how the Prophet ﷺ conveyed the message, and even though he did invite, like, verbally, to the message, like, that's not the entirety, right? So when I think about me conveying the message, I don't think I can go out in the street, like, call people, just random strangers. That seems like a lot of people are doing that, but honestly, most of the time that ends in like debates or just like, you invite the wrong kind of crowd normally because you're not really, people are not understanding or feeling the need for that. But when, and this question, I have that initially too, when do I feel ready? But if I, message is just me living it. So in that case, whether I'm ready or not, to the extent that I am practicing and I'm convinced, that's automatically going to be shared in my circle because you don't stop living, right? In the way you talk, in the way you dress, in the way you interact with people, the message is going to be conveyed. In fact, if you don't feel like the setting or kind of environment is ready for going out into the world and just verbalizing what you think,
Mhm.
perhaps like we don't feel prepared to do that because we don't like bring it into our own actions at this point. That it feels that the sentence feels separate from the practice.
Mhm. Very good. Correct, very correct. But in the absence of it, do I feel the fire? I mean, to get into action, yes, you will need to have some sort of a, what am I going to share with people? This is a very legitimate concern. But do I feel the worry for the people out there? So, because I think without this, the rest is, I mean, there's no point of even discussing maybe. But then maybe I can be sad about, oh, I am sorry about them, but I don't have anything to share with them. Like that would be something that we can talk about. So do I feel sorry or do I feel worried about the people? Like we see the pictures coming from Gaza and we know how it feels like you're just cutting your hand when you're making salad and you know oh, a little bit of bleeding is something that you would like to avoid, a little bit of a pinch of pain and whatnot, and then you see people are just all over the place. You do feel, I can't do anything, I can't do much, but I am feeling extremely sorry. At least I can do prayer. This is what we are saying. So when somebody says, oh, let's say Sister Sarah was coming to discussion and giving us examples about her atheist friend. I have never met this atheist friend, but an atheist friend is being mentioned with such comments. Even if I don't know that person, but just the existence of such a person who is going through this, is it piercing my heart or not? Like this is the type of question that I should be thinking about. Because if I realize that no matter where that person is, somebody is going through this pain, how am I feeling? Like, even if I don't have the resources to give to this person, but am I feeling sorry about this? If I had the opportunity, I would like to share. But even if I don't have it, do I feel the pain? I think this is a very fundamental question because this is the driving force for sharing. And then I can also say, coming back to your second question, if we apply to food, for example, if I'm seeing a person who is homeless, but I have 2 donuts. I mean, 2 donuts is not $1,000,000. It's just 2 donuts. Or let's say even I have a single donut. Like since the person seems to be starving, I would say let's cut it half and give it to that person. Like, is this enough? Better than what he has. Like he has nothing. So maybe half a donut is better than nothing. So I can relate to that. So whatever I have, whatever makes sense to me, to the extent that it eases my neediness, my pain, this existential pain of darkness, I would like to share it with that person. Actually, that half donuts, or very simple, it doesn't, like when it comes to belief matters, it doesn't need to be 100% bulletproof proof, but rather what convinces you, even if it is tiny, is going to be way more honest, way more sincere to share with a person rather than, oh, I will study Arabic, balagha, memorize Quran, learn it, how to read it from 6 different ways, or I will read like Nursi cover to cover, then I'll go with Ghazali and everything. I will just get so strong and then come and defeat the person. Like probably what you're convinced, even if tiny, is going to be, since it's more sincere, you're convinced about it, sharing it with this person, realizing their genuine need to the extent that I feel pain for them, is, I guess, the, what's it? I don't want to use the word natural, but the predisposed way of doing it, like fitra way of doing it. This is how Creator puts us in such a condition. On top of this, if you would like to make yourself benefit more and share more, yes, go and study more. But shall I wait until a certain threshold? I waited. Coming back to your question, I asked the exact same question. Because like I'm coming from a, I would say, school or culture where you're expected to during my college days. And the houses that I stayed in for as dorm, we were expected to look after, let's say, middle school, high school kids, to teach them how to read Quran and then teach them Iman and whatnot. When I was entering the house, I made a contract with them saying that I'm not going to take anybody's responsibility. I don't feel like I know anything and I cannot teach anybody. So it's a big responsibility. And I'm not even sure how much I believe in God. So I don't want to harm anybody. Like this was my attitude. It took how many years? 2 years for me to start putting my feet into the waters, I would say. I mean, it was unintentional how I ended up like in discussion circles and whatnot. But then I'm realizing that this attitude of avoiding was sort of me preventing myself from sharing what makes sense to me. Like I was preventing myself from being just how I would normally act. That's why I gave the example of food truck. Like if you like it, you share it with people. I mean, of course, there could be some social inability. It's another story. But other than that, if I'm okay with sharing a good food truck because I liked it, because I benefited from it, same thing applies to the message. I mean, of course, you don't go and try all possible foods out there and then try to come up with the best food for your friends. But what made sense to you, you would like to share it with people. So I guess this is what it makes sense to me. What do you think? Any comments? Does this make sense?
Person or like that you make. But then there's the fear that quickly replaces that, at least for me. Scaring myself out. That like, well, I don't want to end up in any weird situation. Like this person could just be upset that I even spoke to them, and it could trigger them. They could be upset, which isn't that unheard of either. So I think like the mercy that I feel, maybe the initial reaction is also replaced quickly by this is not your place or space to be doing this. Keep walking and act like you did not see anything. And I think I really struggle with that concept because I think this was different even depending on which country I was in. Like in Cuba, this is very chill. Like it's actually more common to just give because the expectations nothing really ever happens to you. But I think like here there is more caution just because like I've been on the opposite end to where I'm like, maybe I don't want to do this. So there's like, so I think because of that, I truly do struggle. Like, yes, I want to be that kind person that's open to everyone, but I'm also like, to what extent by like nature, I'm not even trying to be in the opposite end. My next thought process is like, just go wherever you're going. So I struggle.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agreed, especially when it comes to homeless people. Like, I'm feeling the same. I'm maybe extremely socially awkward when it comes to approaching anybody in general.
Yeah.
And now this is homeless people are making it even more like, is my money going to go into drug, or like many more certain worries are coming into. So I feel 100% the same when it comes to financially aiding some. Even further worries sometimes come in. So like financially aiding this person? Is it like going with the easy route? Shall I really give money, or shall I show them a proper way to earn their livelihood, for example? Am I doing good service by giving them money? Or shall I take a harder route if I'm really concerned about this person and try to make them start a life, a proper life? Like even these sort of secondary thoughts are coming. And I am using this as a leverage for the other side of it. This is there, this is real, we know how it feels. But what is at stake for eternal life, eternal darkness for a person, and what I would take to try to remedy this? We will talk about ways to do it. Definitely those awkwardness are there, but how Prophet did, because one of the verses actually that we have been studying, we studied recently on Friday discussions. I think it's the last two verses of Surah Tawbah. So where the Creator says, you're going to just, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, kill yourself so that they find the guidance. Speaking to Prophet in the first place. So Prophet putting this much effort. This, what does it tell me? Because now the Creator is warning or telling him something. What does it tell me? What can I take from here? Do I feel this? Like apparently, the Prophet felt this for others. How much do I feel for others? Number one. Number two, now if we take it to why do I feel as such? What's the point of it in my education? Because it's not only you do not have much power, you have no power. Agreed, guidance is going to be given by my Creator. But why am I being created in such a condition, such an environment? And it should be part of my learning process for realizing, because as was mentioned, like all the answers were given actually. So it's becoming a setup for me where I can make supplication, verbal supplication, actual, like by my actions, by my choices, I can make a supplication. Then realize and appreciate the beauty of guidance as a sustenance. Because like in Turkish culture, for example, if you see bread on the floor, culturally, not much left nowadays, but they kiss the bread, put it some higher position somewhere so that the birds can eat, so that it's not going to be stamped under the feet of the people, like showing respect to bread, for example. They appreciate that, oh, this is a sustenance. So do I show the same respect to the guidance? Is it that's important for me, for example? Or, oh, I found such and such deal in this website. This is what we share with WhatsApp, right? Or did you see this deal? And we forward it to another person. So is guidance a new meaning about, oh, my Creator is my sustainer? Realizing this, how valuable is it? Would you like to share it with somebody else? So showing the value of it is also there. So there were some comments online. Okay, Brother Ali says, some of the best ways to convey messages or present invitations is to lead by example, and the interest will come in time. I think if we have the idea of only considering speaking our truth verbally, most people may tune out what they are not interested in or ready for. Is verbally the only way we can convey. So Jazakallah khair, very correct, very beautiful points. So now then, let's get to how part of it, because Quran is also telling us with various examples as to how the message should be conveyed. One of the verses, and we will have multiple of them, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching. موعظة الحسنة. And argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious. For your Lord knows best who have strayed from his path and who receive guidance. So what do you hear from this verse? What sort of guidance does this verse tell you for inviting people to the path of your Lord?
Says, to be careful with the way you do it. I think it has to be like, kind of a combination of what we've all said, of all of our worries, like, what if I say the wrong thing? So this, I guess it invites us to be wise and to not just, argue for the sake of arguing, but I guess argue in a way that would bring, both of you, guidance, or both of you something good.
Mm-hmm. So there's being careful. Okay. Careful in what sense? Let's continue. Like specifically anything about carefulness here? Yep.
I feel with me, there are some weaknesses that I have that I know, and sometimes for me, it might be best to stay silent on certain topics rather than to continue arguing and maybe eventually let something slip that I shouldn't have said and then end up regretting that. So I think it also might have something to do with like our own characters and sort of what kind of like knowing what kind of traits we've been given in terms of like arguing in ways that are best and most gracious. So I feel like some people might be more on the quiet side, whereas others might be on like the louder, outgoing side. So I think I was thinking like of some of the characteristics of like the Sahaba. They were all like different types of people, and so I'm kind of seeing it as like trying to figure out like your own character, like wisdom in terms of your own character and like personality traits and style of like living and just interacting with people as well.
Mm-hmm. And especially in line with what you were mentioning. So, ud'u ila sabili rabbika. So, call people upon the path of your Lord. There's this familiarity with the path. It's my creator, my Lord's path, my sustainer''s path. Like inviting people to someone from whom I benefited. Like rather than ud'u ila sabilillah, it doesn't say that call people to the path of Allah. It's saying call people to the path of Rabbul Alameen. No, it doesn't say the Lord of the heavens and the earth. It says call people to the path of your Lord. So to the extent that you have recognized your Lord and the path of your Lord, then you will invite. Because sometimes we have the notion that I invite people to Islam, religion of God. What portion of it is your Lord's path? How much of Islam did I recognize as path of my sustainer? That much is relevant and conveyable by me in a meaningful way. Because there might be other parts which I didn't relate to in the first place myself. So how am I going to convey anything of this sort? I think in this regard, it starts with this, whatever you are convinced about as coming from your sustainer, then you can convey it.
Yeah, this makes me think of, I heard somewhere that there was this imam that went around different regions, explaining Islam, to like the local people in a way that was effective to them. So for example, it might sound a little funny, but you wouldn't go to a feminist and tell them, oh, Islam says obey your husband, because then they'll scream and actually never listen to any next sentence. I saw like this video, this imam, probably like in New York or something, and this woman came to him and tried to shake his hand, and he said, "I can't do it," and she literally said, "I'm not going to listen to a single more word you say." So maybe like the way to convey Islam with wisdom in that sense would be kind of portraying Islam as a feminist religion, or as a religion that, you know, encourages women, or align the values of Islam that with her values, you know, with the values of a feminist. So I think that's in accordance with
Okay,
conveying it with
that's an interesting and controversial comment. Like the latest twist was interesting, but let's talk about it. Yes.
Precisely like the example of shaking hands.
Mhm.
It seems like on one side, we are advised to invite, and on the other side, we are advised to obey the creator, right?
Mhm.
And in this society, at least, obeying the creator and inviting seems like two different things.
Mm.
It seems almost incompatible
Mhm.
because obeying the creator in a lot of the ways of the society is it's viewed as pulling you away from society.
Mm.
And trying to reconcile that, I've heard people say, like, oh, back in the prophet's time, so this was how things are done, but then people trying to change certain rules and being more lenient about certain things, saying like it doesn't apply to this society anymore.
Mm.
So you're kind of torn between, well, how true do I stay to the practices that are like part of the guidance? And how true do I stay to the, like, how do I still implement the role that I have in society, but also enjoy the fun?
Very, very good point. Now the topic is becoming more practical. That's nice. Because practically how Prophet established these rules is another question that we need to discuss. Like, was it all in one day, or was it gradual? If it is gradual, how does this gradualness apply to us here and now? These are topics to discuss, which will come, but good points. Yes.
Just to add, elaborate. That mean I will take your hand, or would that mean like it's best and gracious for me to just stick to the rule that is, but like actually what I was told to do, because ultimately I can't control the outcome anyway.
Mhm. Very nice. Because once I remember a friend was mentioning a group of people who were saying that, oh, people in the beach also need invitation. So they were going to the beaches to invite people. So I don't know if this was the best way to take it. I mean, people do not stay in the beach 24/7 and go and try to find them elsewhere. Could have been another alternative. But anyways, good questions. Yes, Mr. Zeri. Okay. So, like, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. I mean, of course, we'll discuss more with what Natalia was mentioning, in line with what Zaha was mentioning, because there are things, let's assume for a second, my creator says do X, and let's assume this is set to stone. We can discuss this part, but it is set to stone. And then on the other side, the other person is saying big no. If this is there, I'm not going to be there. This had been with the people of Mecca as well, right? The chiefs of Mecca. They were saying that, like, I mean, why not your God, put it somewhere, and our God, you know, in alternating years, we worship one or the other, let's say. And this is a person who says this has to be there. But we know, and it's like unquestionably no for Islam to say that, I mean, not only Islam, but Islam in the sense that existence, like one God versus many gods, like how can we reconcile this? No way. So we can extrapolate this. This is a very extreme example. But when it comes to a very loaded term like a feminist, let's say, so what is the hidden thing in there? What's the underlying thing that makes it right or wrong? Like taking an identity as this is what I am. Shall I start accepting this as, well, this person is as such, I'm not going to mess up with it? Or will I say, well, let's talk about where that this identity comes from and bring the topic to Tawheed somehow. Like rather than trying to start a debate verse in the sense that obey your husband or not, or this or that, or because the idea is having some problematic basis. What is the basis? I am. Like Satan said, I am made of fire, and this is superior. Because if a man, a masculine, comes and says, I am strong, I am good, this is why I am created male. Likewise, I am good because I am female. I am good because I am made of fire. Same idea. Like no matter if it is masculinity, femininity, whatever you call it, on the basis of it is the same problem. So rather than having any argument about what this is, okay, fine, whatever you are, let's talk about the fundamentals. Like bringing the topic to there rather than having a debate on this contentious topics. Because these are being super loaded terms. Yes, you can know that this person is coming from this background, and you can identify where this, what is the underlying problem that demonstrates it as this behavior. But no need to engage with the behavior itself or the idea itself at this highest level. Because especially when it comes to talking about religion, conveying religion, it is being taken as do's and don'ts. This is the thing that comes the last, not the first. This is why, or I would, if you don't shake hand, I'm not going to talk with you. Like, calm down. Let's talk about the ideas first. Behavior, we'll talk about it later on. That's not the point. So, because I can reject talking to you on the basis of your behavior as well. But let's talk about the basics. What makes you behave as such? What makes me behave as such? Like just as civilized people, let's have a conversation. Could have been a more civilized way. And we can invite the other person to this civilized way of conversation as well. Because they could say, if you are wearing like this, you're already enslaving yourself, or because your father pressured you to do so, how can I talk to someone who is so close-minded? Then you can say, hold on, let's have a conversation. What makes you think that I am enslaving myself? What if it is the other way around? Like bringing the topic to saying that let's talk about what is the underlying phenomena of this behavior first. Because everybody is coming with the propaganda of those behavior. There's a very heavy propaganda going on in all these topics, and people are ready to fire their guns. Just calm down, let's discuss. Because this is how, what was the name of the Sahaba? Like what, the Sahaba that Prophet ﷺ sent to Medina. So he was inviting people, and people, Medina, people of Medina started accepting. This is before Hijrah, before Prophet went there. Then one of the chiefs of Medina comes, I mean, young people, because all the chiefs of Medina were dead at this point. He comes with a sparrow and puts it and says, oh, I heard that you are just saying something to people and like making people's minds blurry. I'm going to kill you with the sparrow. Says, okay, let's have a conversation. If it doesn't make sense to you, you can kill me with the sparrow. But starting the conversation, because the person is coming with a rigid idea. He's ready to kill you, or he's ready to ideologically kill you, saying that if you are such a burden, I'm not going to accept you. Well, what you think as me might be wrong. Let's talk about it. Because you have an image of me. Like if you're not shaking hands with me, then that means you think that I'm a horrible person. Let's talk about it. Maybe it's not because of that. So starting a conversation as such, rather than saying that since this person is going to feel offended, maybe I should bend some stuff. But again, this is based on if the rule is set to stone. But also, Prophet ﷺ demonstrated flexibility in certain things as well. That's a separate issue, though. We will get to there too, as we will talk about Aisha radiallahu anha's narration, because she also talks about that. Yes.
How do you not with like too much passion? I mean, this is not what I'm struggling with, but I've seen the there's obviously a desire to invite, but then there's like that's not what Islam is. No, like you misunderstood me. Like the desire to do something so wrong, in a sense, as if like the religion really needs protection from another.
So then let's talk about wisdom. What is inviting with wisdom? This could be understood in multiple ways, right? So inviting with wisdom could be that invite in a way that it makes sense for that person. Like use a way, like if the person is a child, you will use a different approach. If it is a, I don't know, scientist, if it is a engineer, you will speak in a way that it makes sense to that person. Even one of the ways that you can give monetary zakat is to those whose hearts are going to get warmed toward the message of Islam. Like you're just giving money to the person. Like, are you bribing the person? But no, this person needs to see a demonstration of beauty of the message. So you give that person, you share money or food or whatever. This is part of calling with wisdom on the surface. This is just approach-wise following it, wisdom in here. So this is where I think Natalia's comment about would wisdom require to shake hands in there could be questionable. But again, assuming that the rule is set to stone or not, I'm not getting into there for shaking hands. But the way you suggested it, because this is how I'm reading it, wisdom requires that let's do it so as not to cause a bigger harm. There are many matters not as questionable as shake hands or whatever, which, yeah, you should follow really a wise way. Shall I go and take a speaker and shout right outside the subway station? Maybe not in the United States. It could work elsewhere, but not in University of Philadelphia. They say, like some of my friends visited Africa, and they say just being a lighter skinned person there is enough to attract people's attention. And just for being a friend of yours and walking in the street with you, they are excited to be there. So whatever message you say there is becoming acceptable already. So it's an interesting dynamic. We don't experience it in here, but like that person sacrificing, this is why actually Christian missionaries, they abandon their life 1-2 years as a doctor, as something, go to Africa because it's working. Like those people are saying that, oh, this white person coming here, delivering some message, it's working. So in this sense, in the first meaning of wisdom, this is a wise way of approaching people. You are finding a way that you can enter the heart of that person. But second part is more important, I think. Approaching them with wisdom. Show the wisdom of the message. Do not accept people because our book says so, because this is how we do it in Islam. But rather, this is what will benefit you, isn't it? Give it a try. Like I tasted it, I benefited from it because I am needy and I have no power like you. Explaining the wisdom behind the message so that the message makes sense, like satisfying that person's needs, then they would accept it. Otherwise, if it is yet another path, yet another identity, they would say, well, our identity is good enough. Our ways are good enough. I mean, this is just another way of clothing. This is another way of social interactions you're coming up with. I mean, we have, okay, like you guys maybe have it for 14 centuries, but we take it all the way from Greece. So it is 200 to 2,000, 3,000 years old. It's a more like rooted culture. Why shall I go with your culture? So showing the wisdom, because wisdom in this case means how it is rooted in truth. It's not simple history. It's not simple as style. It's not, oh, this is your way, this is my way. No, it has a substantial, solid root. So show that wisdom to them. So udur ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati. Invite with wisdom, not with imitation. Like if I am to compare it with another word, do not invite with imitation. Invite with wisdom, especially in this age. Like, because everything is apparently, not practically, but apparently, people are trying to convince others why we should buy it. A lot of propaganda is going on as well in very like sinister ways. I mean, just the way that you are same quality, two items. One of them is brand, the other one is not. You go towards the brand. It's propaganda. There's no reason you should choose this other one, even if it's most of the time it's way more expensive, right? But we go there. This is no wisdom in there. That's not a wise choice. It's a stupid choice. But we do so. This is how we are being tricked, right? Don't trick people. The message is beautiful. The message itself is solid and convincing enough. Maybe in here, actually, we just need to undo the trick that's being done in there. Because this is what's happening today. Science is branded. It is the cool thing. Religion, on the other hand, is just old-mindedness. Since nobody wants to associate themselves with religion nowadays, not only Islam, Christianity also. Like it's branded as lack of thought. It's just stupidity, imitation. On the other hand, science is proof, evidence. So this is how people are being applied to this propaganda and losing or deviating. So show where the wisdom is. Invite people to the path of your Lord with wisdom. This is why in our approach to people, when we say, like this was what was being mentioned interestingly. Last Friday, we were at Drexel, and there was a new convert. So let's talk about Tawheed. And we started with Qul huwallahu ahad, and we are going to focus on the word ahad. And I was trying to bring the topic to how come we say that everything must be done by one and only. Like the maker of the plant must be the maker of the sun, must be the maker of the ray. Whatever is being done can only be done by one and only. This conversation takes time to explain it in a wise way, showing the wisdom behind it. People would have been way more happy because most of them were coming from Muslim background, because Quran says so. Because Qul huwallahu ahad, it's easy. Quran says, say Allah is one and only. So, I mean, why we are talking about this anyways? But when it comes to what I was trying to show there was actually this is what you say, but it's not what you believe. Because what you believe is what your science is saying. It is the hydrogen and oxygen that makes water. Water is what gives you life, like all individual independent entities. There is no ahad in your life. And what's the outcome of this? Is this a meaningful, reasonable thing to think about, really? But the observation of the convert brother was interesting. It was interesting to hear this from a convert also. He said, oh, we don't have, who has the patience to listen to that much of things, he said. He said, I heard a comment, a argument in YouTube, which was saying, since God is all powerful, there cannot be two all powerful. Therefore, God is one. Says it's a single sentence proof, makes the point clear. So God must be one. How about the first assumption, though? Where did you come up with the idea that God is all powerful? It's an assumption. Where's this coming from? So where's the wisdom behind this? So you are hanging everything on a baseless assumption. Okay, yes, if this was the case, it would have been, but you are somewhat entertaining, unless this is a necessary conclusion you arrived, all your argument is hanging on a baseless assumption. So we have to go through, because my point was, in there we were using the argument of an atheist. And you and I might be claiming to be a believer, the atheist claims to be an atheist, but we went through the same education. I went through the same secular atheist education, that our beliefs are 80-90% the same, actually. On top of this, I am just sugarcoating, saying that, well, but God created. Atheist says, no, God, there's no God. That's more so the difference. But we have to put wisdom, proper wisdom in there, rather than this misguidance, walla an sabili, is the part. Because the norm that we are using, the language we are using, is based on the deviated path. What sort of a conversation I'm going to have if all the basis is wrong assumptions? It happens by itself. Hydrogen and oxygen makes water. If this is my assumption, what sort of a, even if I say 100% use Quran's words and whatnot, would it mean anything? No. So in this case, really then, although it sounds painful, wisdom requires that I have to slow down that brother. So that, look, there's no other way. We have to unlearn the atheist assumptions, start questioning them really. It happens by itself. Nature does it. Laws make it. These are the assumptions that everybody accepts without seeing any problem in it. But first I have to show it to you. Show that this is what you believe in. Are you aware of that? And then we can start questioning. This is what wisdom requires. And a question that I had, actually, we were discussing this yesterday, not the day before, with Dr. Ali. How are you going to approach people? Because people don't have patience. Attention span is so small. Everybody lovingly go through this 20 years of education of secular worldview. How can you express the message with wisdom in a meaningful time frame? Something to think about. This is a duty, really, as Dr. Ali said, and we are talking about a person who invested 60 years of his life on this, and he says, I gave up. I don't know how to do it. This is something to be really concerned about, because how much time do I put in there so that I expect others, a stranger to the message, to invest in there? Something to think about, something to be worried about. So there were some comments from online. Okay, Brother Ali says, wisdom resonated with me. Wisdom comes from what we have learned through trials and tribulations, as well as what we have experienced. So it's more of us sharing our truth of our Lord. And that works cohesively with invitations versus trying to convey from a place that we feel less knowledgeable. Prophet Muhammad said that whenever we are debating or having conversations, especially with Christians and Jews, to start the conversation with similarities versus what is different. That's correct. Jazakallah khairan. And of course, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, because the jadil, like jidal, the word jidal in here is really arguing or even fighting. Jidal is struggling. بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ part is interesting. Make it in the best way. Because if I see it as a fight of, like, I am going to win over you, like if it's going to be harmful and I will win, you will lose, then my ego gets into place. If I see it as such, it's a struggle at the end of the day, because it's two ideologies fighting with each other. It's a struggle. I cannot pretend as if, no, you are right, I am right. No, like I do not agree with you. It's not like I respect your thought. I don't. Like what you're believing in to me is nonsense. So there is this struggle, no denial of that. But do I take it as a personal fight with you so that I am going to prove you that I am smarter? Because in fights, like in arguments, this is what's happening. You're trying to win the argument for your own, for the sake of my own ego. But in here, I am interested in the other person winning, not me winning. What is the win in this case? The other person is going to realize the wisdom in the message. Like the gain is going to be this person finding the sweetness, the outcome of the message. It has nothing to do with me proving my point and outpowering the other person. So I think this is why here ahsan part, make it in the best relative to me, best relative to the person, of best relative to the truth. So this is why I should be concerned about conveying the message. And at some point, Imam Nursi is mentioning that discussing matters of belief as a matter of debate is not good. You should not debate about matters of faith, because no truth comes out of that sort of a fight-like debate. It should be a meaningful conversation. The other person should not feel like if I lose there shouldn't be fear of losing the debate for the other person either, because the point is we are trying to find truth. So this is why cleaning up the territory, saying that this is not you versus me. This is we are trying to understand something together. If you are right, I'm ready to accept. I might be wrong. Let's give it a try. Have this conversation, because once the guards are up, conversation doesn't go anywhere. Okay, alhamdulillah. It looks like this is a fruitful discussion that we need to have. So inshallah, let's continue next week with priorities. This is going to be a hadith narration from Aisha radiallahu anha. And inshallah, we can continue from there. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.